What did we learn about Anthropic's revenue share agreements with the big cloud providers?
What we've learned is that Anthropic is significantly sharing a lot more money than we had previously known with its cloud partners. So we had previously known that Anthropic had shared about 1.3 million with its cloud partners in 2024. That number has now increased to about 400 million based on our analysis of the forecast that Anthropic had shared with potential investors as part of its prior round. And now this year, it's expected to be potentially 1.9 billion and even 6.4 billion by next year. And so this is specifically for cloud partners such as Amazon, Google, and Microsoft that resell Anthropic's models to their cloud customers. So a huge opportunity for Anthropic to be able to win over more enterprise customers.
And then over time, that's expected to increase as well, according to what you found.
Exactly. When the company had previously broken out partner profit share, those numbers were slightly lower than what we currently estimated to be. So, for example, last year over the summer, they expected it to be roughly 1.6 billion that they would bring in versus the 1.9 billion that they're expecting to bring in this year. And then next year, for example, it's 4.4 versus 6.4. And so you kind of really see this expectation that Anthropic could be bringing in much more money than they expected with their cloud partners and based on our analysis of Anthropic's forecasted figures.
Now, aside from the numbers, I want to understand the dynamic here between Anthropic and the cloud providers. Help me understand why it is that the cloud providers are actually, in some ways, helping Anthropic sell their software because we know some of these companies are developing their own models that could be competitive to Anthropic. Why are they helping to sell Anthropic at all?
It makes a lot of sense for these cloud partners because it mirrors a lot of like software cloud partnerships that companies already have. For example, Microsoft and Databricks have a partnership where Microsoft would earn any money for Databricks software that they sell. And so it's a long-standing tradition, but specifically with the Anthropic relationships, what we have revealed in this reporting is that Anthropic actually shares 50% of its gross profit back to Amazon for any revenue that Amazon sells to its customers. So it's a revenue share model that really works. And so gross profit meaning that any revenue minus any, for example, COGS like inference costs, et cetera. Um, and so that's a figure that Amazon likely would value. And then the relationship with Anthropic and Google is that Google typically shares between 20 to 30% of any net revenue minus its infrastructure costs. And so we expect that to be similar for what they likely are sharing with Anthropic sharing with Google. But unfortunately, we weren't able to find out what specifically that revenue share model looks like for Microsoft. But you really see sort of the dynamics between these AI labs and the cloud partners of how much they're sharing.
And so I just want to understand this. So 'cause we call this revenue sharing because it's sort of the easiest way to describe it. But what I'm hearing from you is there's revenue that the labs get from their customers. Then there's gross profit, which is after you subtract all of the inference costs, like you said. And then really it's that gross profit. Then part of that is then what's paid out to the cloud providers. And so we can sort of see the margins getting slimmer and slimmer as this pie gets smaller and smaller. Is this unique to Anthropic? Is OpenAI in the same position?
OpenAI does also have a revenue share, but with their long standing partner, Microsoft. And so we had previously reported that OpenAI shares 20% of its total revenue with Microsoft. And so rather than it just being, for example, any reselling model, like the way that Anthropic and Amazon, for example, have that relationship, it's actually just all total revenue. And that's because of the unique relationship OpenAI and Microsoft have since OpenAI was first sort of getting started. But what's
That's not a gross profit share. That's like a revenue share.
Exactly, it's 20% of total revenue, and that's just a unique sort of relationship that both Microsoft and OpenAI
Right.
have.
Which is a good deal for Microsoft. I mean, they got there early, basically.
Exactly, and they poured billions of dollars into the company, but what we had reported in yesterday's story is that, what we had previously, understood was that that deal lasts until 2030, but what we've revealed is that it actually goes till 2032, and those, portions of the 20% revenue share will actually be weighted over those set of years, but weighted more heavily towards the later years, so it doesn't impact OpenAI's cash flow as immediately now as it's like continuing to burn cash.
Who do you think has the leverage in this relationship? I mean, the cloud providers clearly need to be able to sell Anthropic and OpenAI's models to keep their offering compelling. On the other hand, the model companies need the cloud providers to run their businesses, and this revenue sharing agreement certainly shows how much loyalty they have to them. Who has the upper hand in this relationship, do you think?
I'd say that it's a very symbiotic relationship right now because while Anthropic is reselling, or sorry, Anthropic is or like the cloud providers are reselling Anthropic's models. The main area that Anthropic is getting value from is actually getting access to compute and chips from its cloud partners. And same with, for example, OpenAI, where even though Microsoft might be selling OpenAI models, the majority of sort of value that OpenAI is gaining from Microsoft is again the cloud computing power. And so I would say that this is sort of a negotiation bundle across many aspects of its relationship. So cloud computing, revenue share, chips. And so when you look at it holistically, you really see that it is a symbiotic relationship, especially because Anthropic and OpenAI, based on our analysis and our reporting, actually generate majority of their revenue from directly selling their business to customers. And so you see sort of the value that they're trying to eke out between sort of all the relationships and aspects of the deals.
Great. Well, Shri, I want to thank you for coming on. That is Shri Mupidi, our OpenAI and Anthropic reporter here at The Information.